Good evening, folks. It's Poms from Pallatrax. My latest Sunday slot live feed is here this week on the main Pallatrax page. Every other week it's on the team page. If you haven't ever heard of Team Pallatrax and you happen to see this little clip, feel free to go onto the Pallatrax website, pallatrax.co.uk, and you'll see there you can enter and join our team, which is now. Hi Lee, how you doing? Everything's ready for you to come down, sir. So yeah, look at Team Pallatrax. It's a great initiative, really good bunch of folk, really friendly, uber friendly, no haters. Carl and Ian, thank God the things are working. Now we're in a complete mess. No change there, is there? Galen, it was such a mess. I meant to ask you to come on this week and talk about underwater filming in Canada, and we'll get there. So, Wayne, how you doing? I told Mr. Monks that you'd said hello. He was a happy man, Wayne, down here, caught some nice fish. So, James, how you doing, mate? Saw you capturing one. Good man. Did you get just the one, or did you get any more? Richard Ward, Keith, how you doing? I am actually trying to work here as I'm speaking, which is always a challenge. What's the weather like out there, folks? It's been miserable down here. I went fishing yesterday and it was a mess. It was an absolute mare. I took the dogs with me, which wasn't a good idea. Bivvy was covered in mud and everything, and it was a challenge. But then today it's been hot, as you can see. I've got a bit of a tan going on there, or a bit of a, I don't know, blush. And Anthony, Neil, good evening, folks. And yeah, today was really hot, and I had nice fish earlier, but I must admit I didn't really do an awful lot of fishing. It was just good to catch up with Monksy. So Paul Lee, how you doing? Good evening, good evening. Keith Powell, I see you've been back in action again, Keith. You're still fishing as well, James, and 3 lovely mirrors. Good man, good man. One soggy day yesterday. Yeah, it didn't stop it. The weird thing is, as a fishery owner, especially this time of year, you're just desperate for water. So I'm looking for a boilie stop now and hunt the boilie stop, but I'll find one in a minute. So yeah, a few things to go through tonight. One soggy day. Where are you, Ian? Devon's meant to be. It's not a summer, is it? It's been pretty shocking. Sorry, I'm still looking for my. I had them. It wouldn't be right if things don't go wrong. I'll have to call out in a minute. Oh, you're in Clumpton? Yeah, not too far away. Yeah, it's been rubbish weather. Well, I fished somewhere at Clumpton. There's like it was a small fishery and had like a luxury mobile home kind of thing on the side of it. And yeah, good days there, that was certain. Dave Clifford, see you down here, Sue. You'll see Sue down here as well, because Sue's coming down. We've got our team fishing coming this week. So what's James saying? Yes, on the bank until tomorrow afternoon. Still got 2 rods out, so may have to run off if it goes off. Well, hopefully you'll be running off and then telling us all about it. James is a team member, so he'll put that on the post. Aha, we have a boilie strip. So, there's a couple of things I'm going to show you this evening. I am going to actually, Goodeford, no, it's not Goodeford, I can't remember. There was this chap, bald-headed chap, it's only like an acre or so, but it has some lovely fish in it. And I think he's sold it now, Barney Tizard, oh my lord, how you doing, mate? You've been in the wars? So, yeah, come and see what's all happening down here. See your... What is it, my niece or something like that? I don't know. So your baby, anyway, and your betrothed. Robert, how did you do, mate? Your brother were out fishing this morning. Any good? Haven't been back on the page. I'm currently trying to fit a boilie stop in my little rig here that I'm going to show you. So, so anybody here who's been fishing today? Oh, it's just me and Monksy and Robert. I know Robert went. So. What I'm going to do is I am going to have to plug a few things, not because I'm into selling stuff, but I think it's only fair. Oh, I tell you what, don't get old, folks. Not as old as me, anyway. My eyes are shot. I've even got a big light here, and I still can't put it on. So, yeah, just go through a few things. I mean, most of the team members, or a lot of team members, will already be aware of that, but we just want to make sure everybody else is aware. Sten Hill, that was the fishery near Columpton, I think. I'm sure it was. But yes, there's a few things I'm going to show you tonight. Andre, all the way from Slovakia. I nearly messaged you earlier, Andre, so we will catch up at some stage this week. How's Slovakia? How's the weather? Hope all's good there. My brother had a tench line in 19.5 common carp. Well done, Robert. Got to be in it to win it. So that's happy days. How big was the tench? I do love my tench fishing. I've got permission. About 2 weeks I spoke to somebody, very, very special lake, and letting me go on there next year with Sue to do a tench. It's actually carp fishery, but it's got so many tench in there, so I'm looking forward to that. Not been out, hopefully getting down the beach this week. Good man, good evening, and all need. That's from Trevor. Neil Oliver, how you doing, mate? Hope you're well. Hope it's all going out up well there. Don't be shy putting... I haven't. I only got distance glass. I went last week. £3 plus. That's not nice fish, Robert. They're all nice fish. Strange enough, Neil, good man Scouse puts into contact with an outlet up in Liverpool. So they will be taking on some product, not too far from you, no doubt. So I've got a few questions from last week. Ryan, how you doing, mate? Which I never got time to, because you know what I'm like. I go all over the place, and if you haven't seen me before, be prepared to probably get me confused. But what I'm going to do first, I'm deciding what to do first. I'll tell you what I'm going to do first. As you know, or if you haven't been here before, I always do the Sunday slot little raffle thing. And so this week I'm going to make a display, because then I'm going to show you. I thought I'd show you something. Where, right. This is what's happening. So that's a little goodie, some of our, well, obviously it's all unique. Either I get it made for me, or in the baits we make it all ourselves. We'll buy only the best. So Paul, how you doing? Right, I'm going to, where is it, that one? I've got a different phone there. This is a bit of a problem. These are these lights. I've got these lights. Are you all getting a shiny thing? I have to change lights. I don't know if it's just me. So tonight we've got a strawberry glove, which I'm going to show you very shortly. Strawberry booster, water based, so that really ingressed. The strawberry liquids on a liquid food. We've got some spirulina micro pills. So spirulina, if you don't know about it, it's a form of algae. Really, really, really good stuff. Fish, really good attraction, and it would be wrong not to have a packet of the old wonderful third hook design in the grips. And that's what's really happening now. Lots of shops are now getting their heads round vertical lines. Yeah, hi Stephen. I'm going to change lights and go back to my my old ones. Stand by. Oh, right. That one there. Oh, to have a nice little studio. Now everything is going to be really dark and dingy, probably. Right, hang on. Right, is that any better? No. Just get wet up. Right, so, there we go. Bonjour as well, Paul. How you doing, mate? Right, so I'll just go through that again. Now we can see them. So, I got some lovely lights I tried, and they obviously didn't work. So, yeah, some grips, micro pills, and the strawberry attractor booster range. And I'm just going to show, if anybody hasn't seen it, one of the many things you can do with the Pallatrax glug. It is a very unique product, and obviously we make it all here from the raw ingredients. But if you haven't seen it, and there's lots of different things you do, there is some. It's one of our best-selling products now, to be fair. So as you can see, we're talking a proper thick gloop. This is the flavour I've got here is a ×4 strawberry. That's what it's called in the. It's all fish feed regulated and things like that. So all I'm doing is pushing that in. Get your head torch on. Yes, I think, well, hopefully we're sorted now. So that is it completely. So you just literally immerse it. Now, it is a rather sticky, but it's worth the effort to get a little bit mucky. Some of them, like the wild crab, absolutely hustle. So there's so many things you can do. So let's just get it up close and personal. and then you'll see it's proper sticky. And so you've got to just get to know it, kind of thing. But then things like this you can do. There's loads of different things. You can even do little maggots, casters. There's so many things you can do. But I'm just going to pop it in the spirulina. And what we'll do, oh, there's the hounds from hell. As you can see, it's now all covered. And we will leave that there. Hopefully, let's see if you can see that. So instead of it just disappearing, okay, as in like a lot of things like this, it will have its limitations, whereas this one has different characteristics completely, and which is what we're really about. Pallatrax is all about looking for those edges, doing something different, but for right reasons. So that is tonight's prize. So all you have to do is send yes to the main Pallatrax Facebook page, not to the messenger on the Pallatrax. I'll also pop in that rig, one of the LQ rigs that I was using today. So and it'll be still as sharp as a whistle. So yeah, just send through yes on Messenger, and job will be a good one. You get entered into the raffle, and we'll see where we go from there. 4 candles, more candle. Yeah, that's the thing down here. Right. So whilst I'm talking about products, I'm only saying this. If you know me by now, I'd like to say all I do is draw people to the conclusions of why I'm designing products, why I've done, over a quarter of a century in this industry now, and it's obviously all focused on fish safety, fishery management, water quality, and angler satisfaction. Let's put performance before profit, and we'll see where we go from there. Love the wild crab, and crave caught quite a few. Yeah, it stinks though, doesn't it? The old wild crab, and yeah, crave, well, that's what I caught on today, to be fair. What's James saying? That's been my winning combo so far this weekend. Crave pop-ups with a small amount of crave glug every few casts, just over a little bit of traction. Hemp and tears. Why don't we use tears? Are the 18mm multi-worm available yet? Is that in the pop-ups, Ian? Or is that in the bottom baits? In the pop-ups, they are going... Where are they? They're not here. But yeah, so 18 mils, we've got a man on station this week. He's coming down to help me, pop-ups. So the 10s and 14s in squabs and boilie shapes are... No, somebody's sending yes to me, Simon Pomeroy. You have to send it through to the Facebook Pallatrax main Facebook page. So yes. So Ian... Now I'm getting all confused. So the 18 mils will be made this week, and they'll be available at the end of the week, and the 10s and 14s. And I'm really, really pleased with them, to be fair. Really, really pleased with them. And it was always a challenge. And again, I know I'm probably repeating myself, so I do apologise to some team members. But try to stabilise basically very, very active ingredients. So when I say active ingredients, I'm talking about... all of the insects, so mealworm, silkworm and earthworm that go into this. But with certain things that have been happening in behind the scenes, and obviously these aren't freebies, they are basically pop-ups, so they're actually a lure. By definition, they're a lure. So they're not designed to be eaten by the fish, but actually just inhaled. So stuff full of insects, and now we've got that very good quality preservative. We can stabilise it, so it's now actually going to send out the foods. And also we've got, at the same time, we've got all the 10mm squabs and pop-ups as well, which are my favourite combo, and is going to lead me into the next thing. So folks, I know I got quite a few messages over the weekend. They are back in the Pallatrax shop. Right, just to give whilst I'm there, that is the goodie prize for this week. Yeah, it's all how... Christian, how you doing, mate? How's married life? Hope's all good. So yeah, yes, over to the Pallatrax main... Well, what we're on here, so onto the messenger site. Just say yes if you'd like to get included in that draw. And... No, that's not going to work, is it? One day I'll get used to it. So now you can see what's happening is, so that bait that we popped into the tank, so it was covered in glug, so everything's stayed around it, it's masking the hook, and it's all food. So there you go. That's why one of the reasons I use glugs and how I get the best out of them. They're so adaptable. And I think one of the things that has always been good for me is you look at either improving or innovating, things like that. When it comes to bait, it really, really is all about the ingredients. Obviously the manufacturing process comes in, but it's all about the ingredients. So when you're using this kind of stuff, it does allow you to really, really innovate. And then, so I can bring out that glug, and then somebody will say, well, I'm doing that with the glug, or I'm doing this. And that's what I think is really cool. So, but a lot of people have shown me, and I'm going to have to I've made a bit of a mistake here. I'm just going to shout for another fish tank, because we've got that one in there. We want to see what happens over the feed. 1 second. Horrible cold tea, but 10 might be on my own at the moment. We might have to use the one tank. Right, let me put the old prize over there. Any questions, just far away. I'm always up for questions. Where are we? Good evening. Hopefully you got to watch you on the bank in France next Sunday. Roll on. Good man, Colin. Safe travels. Hope you catch that. Wild crab glug is packed, or just don't let it spill. If that's one thing. They won't open that up at the border. So where are we? Kelly, how you doing? How you doing, girl? Hope's all well in Bideford, all those ways away. Pete Paddock, you're good, mate. So, I have been talking, and Natalie, the whole family are here. How you doing, Natalie? Sorry I missed you this week, but obviously you know my father's pretty ill, so I'm not going too far away. How's the leg going that I don't know, Neil. I honestly don't know. I won't go. I know what's going to happen. So anybody who doesn't know, years ago, obviously when I bought the stones out, a lot of people focused on the non-toxic element of it, but the non-toxic element was, I suppose, in many ways by default. I hadn't realised back in those days what an issue lead was, and I was fishing, basically a rock, because it's part of the background chatter of fish. It's natural, and so what we did over the years, we've kind of left them on pieces of mono. We've left a load of stones in lakes, and then that we're fishing, and then we'll bring them out, and they're all covered in all kinds of manner of different things, snails and algae, and everything that's just attracted to a stone on the bottom of any lake, to be fair. But then we did a test a long time ago, so we thought we'd put a load of stones in my old lake and a load of leads, and then we brought them out after I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that, and the leads, though they were a bit like mucky, I suppose, nothing at all would live on them, and because it's nature's toxins, nothing can live on it, and obviously we bought our stones and they were all covered in all and everything were living on them. And I know a lot of anglers who are on syndicate lakes, that's what they do. They've picked up on it. They hide their stones in somewhere in the margins, and every time they go fishing, hi Larry, they'll pick them up. But so we're doing it here. We're doing it all properly. Obviously I know where they are, but I can promise you I haven't touched them, and we're not touching them until we'll do it, and we'll do it properly. So yes, so Neil, in answer to your question in a long roundabout way, yeah, it's all bubbling away, and I know what's going to happen, because it's it's been part of the journey, but it'll be really good to prove it to a lot of people. There is some cynics out there who just won't come on board about the issues with lead, but that's me with my fishery management head on and my responsible head on. Angling wise, a stone is just that, it's a rock. I can use it as a method feeder, I can flavour it, but the main, and obviously it casts and does all the things that the haters says it doesn't do, because they don't want to, well, for loads of different reasons. I'm not going to get into the politics of fishing, but yeah, so I can do that's just multi. So we've left them in there, and we'll show you soon. Justin, how you doing, mate? Just putting your rods out? Good man. Where are you then fishing? Neil Watson, can you add flavour liquids to floaters and will they absorb it? How before you? Yes, you can. Obviously, my flavours are all water based. So the best way to get anything to ingress is not an oil booster or a flavour or whatever. You need it to be a water one, because then it'll actually. Matthew Rice, did you ever make it clear way at all? No, that was Osprey. Oh, the River Wharf. All right, sorry, I'm trying to keep up with everything, even all bit right. Simon. So hopefully I've got everybody. So. Yeah, moving on from what Neil was saying. So what I'm going to do tonight to show you, can you test or see how much toxins are present in the water after being soaked? The last question about that. No, you keep going, Neil. This is one of the things, Neil, actually, that's been put out about the industry. Ted? Oh, somebody was there. I'm trying to get another fish tank.
Sorry.
Can you ask Mum to get me another fish tank, please?
Where is she?
I don't know. So... Lose train of thought, was all going wrong. Ian, good evening, sir. Ian's doing some stuff for us, trying out the new, actually, I can't believe where I go. That's your fault now, Neil. So Neil's been trialling out the new monster catfish hook as it's being used in the £60 version, which is, I don't know if you can be able to see this. So these are actually prototypes. I can never do this. Why can't I never get... Anyway, so it's on £60 Steam Link, full rotation, and you've only got to see the fish that Ian's been catching on the multi-worm and the fish that have been caught out in Thailand and places like that. So that's where Ian... So I'm just saying hello, Ian, because Ian had... It was quite interesting, wasn't it, Ian? You went fishing the other day again with some friends, and there was four sets of 3 rods along the bank, and Ian again was the only person to catch. So yeah, Ian's a good fisherman, but obviously using the tools that he's using are certainly outwitting some of these big tadpoles. Somebody asked me about a barbel bait there. Where was it? Hang on a second. I will get back. So it's just. Is there water in there? Please. Right, Ian Clark. Sorry, Ian. Good barbel bait. You'll probably know Tony Miles, very good friend of mine, unfortunately passed away. I mean, him and his wife Fran used to come down here for a week every year. Multi-worm. If you talk to people like Richie Cockrell and that lot, multi-worm. Multi-worm catches everything. And, it's such an active bait. So I would thoroughly recommend multi-worm. So... you can't really go wrong with that. Catches all and everything. So hopefully that is right. Mr. Matthew Rice. I hope you're getting pinker. Right, so we're talking here. I don't want to stay on this too much because it's right that we should focus on the fact is that the industry keeps on selling lead. Doesn't take any notice of the ECHA report because it's all about children getting harmed and one thing and another from toxins. But it's obviously something dear to my heart from a fishery management and a responsible management point of view. When sorry, folks, I'm just getting another fish tank in here to show you my main demo of the evening. And what it does, lead, okay, in very brief here, because it's quite a no worries, Ian. Any questions, always feel free to phone me. I can go through baits or one thing or other. But where we are with the lead situation and why the Angling Trust, Angling Trade Association, the EA, the major brands aren't taking on board the European Chemicals Agency's, which they are doing across Europe, the summary findings and facts, is beyond me. I'm a member of the trade, and to be fair, I'm just mortified that people have said to me, it's just because you're trying to sell stones. It's like, no, I'm not. That's an assumption, and that's not the case. It's the fact is that lead is highly dangerous, especially to children, in the smelting process. Hence why, because they can't regulate the smelting process, they're banning it. And but England and the major brands and the minor brands as well, just whatever, it is what it is. So the main concern for me, aside from the smelting process and all of those things that are never discussed, is there's kind of a school of thought put out by the industry that lead doesn't dissolve in water. And that's very true in many ways. The biggest problem is, and we're talking thousands of tonnes now in waters across Europe, and that's a fact, proven fact, is nothing can live on or around lead, and that's what I was basically saying earlier. So if you drop lead, you're talking then suddenly areas, literally thousands of leads, and we've seen it. And obviously nothing can live on or around it, so that area becomes devoid of life. And as a fishery owner, and long term, we don't know. We don't know what impact it may or may not have. But what we do know is nothing can live on and around it, so it can displace or kill things in the substrate. Substrate, obviously, which is basically the mud or the clay or whatever, that more so mud and silt and things like that. So much lives and is born in there, and so to recklessly dump a poison, heavy metal into it is just madness. And me as a fishery owner, there's no way I'm going to allow it to be here. So back had to go for a sec. No worries. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Hopefully not too badly, not too bad. Right, so that's led. Any other questions, feel free to ask, but let's kind of try and stay on the fishing side, but I'm always there. Again, okay, I'm just like you folks, I'm just another angler, so never be afraid to pick up the phone or send me a message or anything, because you're more than welcome, and obviously lots of things I know. Hope you're right, fella, that's, yes, we hope so. It's Josh Goody, the first live feed. Welcome, Josh. So just to let you know, Josh, there is a prize of a load of attractors and some grips and bits and pieces. Every week I have a raffle draw, whatever you want to call it. And basically all you got to do is send yes. I hope I'm getting this right. Send yes to the main Pallatrax Facebook page. I always get it wrong. So ladies band, yeah, I know, Andrew. I know it's so frustrating when the industry is basically, I don't know, given a free pass to a poisonous toxic that is bad for the environment and bad for humans. And the fact is that it can harm, and the main thing behind it is this unregulated smelting process that we, the industry, with that knowledge, is still producing leads. Well, if you want to say it's the right thing, I'm just always going to be against it. It's wrong, and that's why all these countries in Europe are banning it and we're not. And the major brands are still pushing it. Still pushing the eject system, which is beyond me anyway. So, yes, anyhow, let's move on. Paul, so yeah, shooting has gone down that route without a shadow of a doubt. They've had to. And they've gone to ceramics and steel and things like that. Richard, so how long can the multi-worm freeze boys stay in the freezer? Well, to be fair, for an awful long time. I know that's how long's a piece of string, so to speak. But, we've done tests where we've kept batches. In all honesty, we've never kept batches over 12 months, because if you don't use it in 12 months, I'd like to think you would have used it in 12 months. That's not to say it will be anything wrong with it, but we know that the longer things are frozen, in many ways, the power, they'll lose that power of attraction potentially. But in all honesty, they'll last for an awful long time. I mean, there's no preservatives in there, no synthetics, so there's lots of naturals, but as long as you keep it frozen. And then the other thing is you can always air dry. They're great to air dry, but you have to air dry them properly, because they will in essence start to rot very quickly, because you've got loads of dead bits in there. It's quite interesting, and I've got no problem with it. You're seeing lots more of companies now. I mean, we've obviously been doing naturals for over 20 years now, but you're seeing a lot of other brands now being in natural. They're coming away from all the synthetic flavours and bling and coconuts and creams and all this kind of stuff, and going back to what fish really eat, which is naturals. So hopefully, Richard, that makes some sense. So right, on the naturals, I'm going to give you a quick demo, because I was talking on the team page about this last week. Actually, what we'll do is we'll just zoom in on. So there you go. So all the spirulina micro pills are just sitting all around it, slowly breaking down, and it's literally sitting amongst a load of food. That's a jungle, so it's on a milk protein base, so again it's food, and that's how it works. And so underneath that, let me just see if I can show you. See all the glug there? So that's the glug that's come off here, and it's just sat in that. It's just sat in all that attraction. So if you think about it, it just makes perfect sense. It's all about common sense. And that's what so many people say to me when they meet Pallatrax. I was talking to a match angler this week, and he said, it's just all common sense. We were talking about the big feeders they're using in match fishing now. And I said, well, why don't you use a stone? And And off the conversation went, and he left the conversation really, really excited. So it's always good to help. Nice to be nice, isn't it? So this is basically my standard system. So you've just got the swivel stone onto a buffer bead, and this very, very, very simple rig has caught me, to be fair, this has caught me my biggest fish at places like Horseshoe and things like that. And it's actually a pop-up rig. I call it my weed rig, but you can use it anywhere. Now, the problem with this kind of rig is it's obviously made from a braid, and it therefore is very, very, very susceptible to tangling. And so it's got to be used in the right situations. But why do I think, and again, this is just common sense, it's assumption to some degree, why does this rig work so well? And I think the way I fish it, and I'll show you in a second how to do it all, is that when I'm fishing it, okay, so I've got my method mixing, the yada, I will always end up with an element of slack. So if I'm using like there, what I call an extended rig, okay, so if a fish came in and picked up here and your rig was already extended, obviously it can't go back to in there. The fish's mouth. And I caught a fish this morning on my lakes down here, and because obviously the fish was on this, it sucked it back in. So you've got all of that it's obviously on a pop-up, so it's very, very light, and it travels, and you just get some really, really good hook holds. Because I believe it's obviously very, very flexible, but also the fact is that you've got that bit of slack there, that when it sucks up, it's actually going to take it back in. Reen, I love you more. What's this? Do the glugs work in winter? Yes, they do, Richard, very much, to be fair. That's probably one of the best ways to use the glugs in winter. Let me just come back while I explain that, because what you will, if you go on to, I did a film with the carpology, and obviously it's resonated with a lot of people because of the amount of interest in it. But get to sleep, lady. Don't call me a lady. Oh, not me. Good old Reenie is up in Glasgow today, Reenie. Sue, I take it you're somewhere in Durham. So going back to these glugs, as you see, they are really, really, but they're very, very much heat kind of sensitive. So if you you can put them in a microwave for 15 seconds. Don't put them too long. It's not a microwave safe pot for being left in there for hours on end. Because I've done that before, and it melts the pot completely after about a minute. So don't do that. But you can just put it into some hot water, like when we're on the bank in the winter, into a hot cup of water, and it will get very, very soft. But the colder it is, the firmer and harder it is. And if you've not used it before, it's a great, great booster when you leave your hook baits, you know, HMV hook baits. We always have to drill a hole through them, because if you don't, and we do that range as well, pre-drilled, and they will basically absorb the sugars and things like that and become very, very hard as well as super boosted. But yeah, winter bait. Got some good stories about fishing, you know, these heavily glugged hook baits in the winter, just as a single, but finding the fish, and you get, I call it nature, you know, you get, you find the shoal, they're all grouped together, and you put this in, and you get that, oh, she's upstairs, oh, go to sleep, Reenie. Right, so I'm going to show you how I use the weed rig. Now, somebody pointed out to me, and correctly so, last week, that you can use it anywhere, and you definitely can use it anywhere. Lovely. I tell you what, honestly, Neil, because that's a very, very special flavour. I get all my flavours from a very, 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 very good flavour house. Very, very, very expensive flavour house. Because what is strawberry flavour? It's all to do with what it's actually made from. It's a bit like perfume or something like that. It's all to do with the carriers and all the different things that go with it. And yes, it's... I've just got it on the screen. That's not a good idea. And that's called ×4, so it's really, really powerful. And in all honesty, it will be something I'll bring out later. I used to do this tench bait, and tench just absolutely loved it. But being so busy and all these different things we're doing, but it will happen one day. I'll bring out these little 10mm squabs, HMV squabs, and caught a lot of tench. Caught a lot of fish on them, full stop, but tench seem to love them. Right, so let me just show you where we're going to go with this. So we've got this rig, and it's really, 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 really basic. It's called the weed rig. To be fair, I tie them exclusively now for the Team members, we're doing a lot of things like that. So just to remind you, so I've got a gamma main line. Let me just take that off to show you. So a compression bead, which is then gets pulled over. And then we're just talking literally a 5-inch rig, a little non-toxic counterbalance there, and in this case a 10mm and a 10mm round and a 10mm squab. This was basically set up for you know, I get my, hang on a second, let me try and show you. So that is the kind of, whether it's a pop-up or whether it's bottom bait, that is the kind of, you know, space I'm leaving on the hair. So I tend to fish short hairs most of the time. And obviously you've got the kicker there, which makes it turn very, very aggressively, and that's the serious shrink. And personally, another little plug, but I don't think you can beat that stuff. I've yet to. It comes from outside the industry. So now if I chuck that out like that, with no anti-tangle tubing, I am just in the lap of the gods. But this is the beauty about this system. So let's get cooking. One bowl. So the first thing, and I know lots of people will have seen this before, and I do apologise, but certainly for newer people, but it's always a good one to show you because it really, really kind of, I suppose, gets into you can get into my head and see how I'm working. So using naturals. So here we've got, the trouble is, folks, actually I'm just going to come back so you can see my sunburnt chops. It's always a difficult one for me, and I can understand people being really, really cynical, because they don't call me Cynical Simon for no reason. I just don't believe a lot of what we're told nowadays, and fishing is the same thing as well. And when you research it, you find like real holes and things like that. So for me, it's all about the ingredients, and naturals is very much one of the things. But I suppose it's the people have said to me time and time again, Tom, you shouldn't like kind of apologise. And I suppose I'm not apologising. I'm just saying the trouble is, as soon as I talk about something, I basically develop it within my own angling and then share that knowledge. And if people want to buy into it and things like that, but all I'm doing here is drawing into conclusions of the products that I use and why I use them. And I got to that stage after a fish kill 24 years ago where I said, no, I need to know everything that's going in my waters from now on and everything I'm fishing on. Hang on a second. Nice on ice cream. Yeah, I don't think so. Oh no, it would be actually. It's all human grades, that one. Ian's saying, on my local lake I fished this rig, but in line on a solid bag last year, cleared up all summer with just like you having a 5-inch ring. Yeah, it's again, we've got to this, and I'm you know, like I say, people try and shoot me down, but I would really, really, really be very, very careful about rigs. Rigs, I call them the mouse trap. You know, when we're hair rig fishing for whatever species, you're expecting the fish to hook itself. You're not visually watching it. You're not, like last night, Monksy was fishing on the surface. He could see the fish, see the lips come up, and he strikes. We're not doing that when we're fishing on the deck. So in essence, we are using a trap. And if your trap is flawed or not consistent, the results are going to be just that, not consistent. So each their own, but be very, very careful with some of these rigs. I've had 2 tackle shops, and sometimes you just think, they're just reinventing the wheel here. Has that made any difference? And that is probably one of the simplest rigs, you know, you can come up with, and also the most effective. And everything has to be set the same way. It's like match fishing when I make a rig. Everything within a couple of millimeters and things like that. So you fish it consistent, you'll just get the consistent results. Anyway, so back to this. Let me turn around. And this is the key part. And I will always say, when you're making any bait up, take time, especially, you know, carp anglers. We're sitting on the bank for a huge amount of time. So be like the match angler. Take time with, you know, putting your baits together and what you're going to use within your baits and things like that. So that's the Daphne Maggot Crush. And that is pure fish food. A lot of the science there is... basically coming from the fish farming market. I don't believe anybody will be able to give you pure fish science, biology, feed, etc., than the fish farming market. They have to make products that fish benefit from and therefore have to eat. So it's a great, great place to go hunting for all kinds of things. So anyway, so we're going to now And this is where I suppose again it becomes it's a blank canvas. You've got the tool there. Now you can add other things. Just be very careful because that is a complete meal. You don't need to, but if you add other things, it can be create an even more enhanced kind of mix. Now a lot of the people, so here we are. So there, I'm just going to use the old spirulina pills that we talked about earlier. I'm going to put a few of those in, and again, it's one of those things that you can really, make your own. So I've just got a few things I've grabbed out in the tackle shed here. So I've got some Daphnia and Magapad. Now this is something that I tell you, folks, this is amazing because this is in the water. Oh, dear, that's the trouble. This is in the water system. So what that is, that's all granulated. And what I love doing is putting this powder form into here. But also jamming it into my paste when I wrap a paste off. So I'm then literally matching the hatch because this time of year, like I said, it's full of Daphnia. It's something that's a water flea, lives in our climbs and most climbs. So I do like this as well, which is granulated maggot, dried maggot, all natural. None of this has got any synthetics. And so you can really do what you want. So now, I could just mix that up, and so you can break up bits of baits. Our stuff's all HMV, so it's only going to be food. So as you can see, we put a lot of stuff in there, and it doesn't actually look any different. Now, I'm going to use this because I use this all the time, to be fair, which is the gamma shrimp. Now, this is a shrimp that's native. These actually aren't from this country. They're all fully irradiated and sourced responsibly. But they're basically, you will see this. It's a very small kind of. Hi Gary, welcome. Let me just grab a handful so you can see. Hopefully, there you go. So it's a very small shrimp. Now, freshwater shrimp basically. It's a crustacean. Now these little fellas. Let me try and get a big one. Hang on a second, see if we can. One day I'll work out how to do. No, I won't. So I don't even. No, but what that is, okay. If I then, I'll actually crush that. Okay, so it's dry, and because it's got a skeleton, there's an air content in there, and so you can use this. So it's pure fish food. It's great for putting in a zig mix. So when you've got a stone, wrapping this round it, and we'll show you in a minute, and you'll see why it's great for zig mix. Now I'm going to be a bit OTT here, because what you can do with it, basically, the more you put in, the more active your mix will be. The less active. Now I'm just going to overload this to basically really show you a lot quicker what happens. So water wise, yes, you can add a flavour, so the liquids and things like that, but I do tend to stick very much when I'm doing a naturals mix with naturals. I don't look to enhance it. That's not to say you shouldn't. So water, do use it from the venue. Don't use tap water. It's full of fluoride and all kinds of junk, and it's just one of those things that you don't want to disturb the balance. If you're using it from the venue you're at, it is that water. And what you do is you really take time to make this mix. And again, talk to any match angler, a good match angler that's framing week in, week out. They don't rush anything about their bait. Their bait is, they feed their own maggots. It's incredible when you see these folks. And the reason they win is because everything they're doing is spot on. Everything's consistent. There's no kind of mucking around in the middle of a match, because they've got a plan. They'll fish to that plan. They'll adapt the plan. But what they will always use, they'll always use a quality bait, a high quality bait. And that is, like I say, it's all about the ingredients. You use something that is of a lesser quality, you'll get lesser results. That's just how it works. And you've got to remember, especially with carp will inhale just about all and everything. Because they're just curious and inquisitive. The big fish, they're looking on the food all the time. Especially this year, they'll eat like 3.5% of their body weight in a feed cycle. So I've got a nice mix there. Now, when I would normally fish this, right, you can really squeeze that on. Now, I've seen and heard, and it does frustrate me when people talk about this. I'm going to come back. This is a rainwater, if not on venue. Yes, good idea, good point. So, if you look at that, everything going to get mucky now. So that is just a ball of food, and it's got different inclusions in there, and you can do all kinds of things. Now, so the science there is not Pom sitting in his workshop coming up with all weird and wonderful things. That's basically through fish farming, through my own knowledge, sourcing different things, and you can really press that on. And when people say you can't cast a stone, well, you shape that into a round ball, you can cast that, or the paste and things like that. And so we've got to that stage now where I suppose, you know, in many ways I'm kind of a bit fed up, you know, because there's no hidden agenda. All we're trying to do is, sorry, I'm washing my hand now, is say there is other ways to fish, definitely. And obviously at the moment in the industry, we're fishing very one way. The method, if you look on the match scene, it's actually banned at some match venues because people who have the ability to produce a good method, they just outfish everybody else. And one of the reasons why is a good method sat right next to your hook bait. That is the draw. And you can't do this with a PVA bag. You can't do this with anything else. And people have said to me, it's a noddy tactic, which I hate that word. I hate that word, noddy. What's that all about? But also, you know, because it's not vogue in some of the trending markets as we see, people just dismiss it. And I tell you what, dismiss it. I only fish that's the first thing I do. I make up a really good method mix on the day. I might make 2 or 3 different method mixes because I've got 2 or 3 different hook baits. Yeah, exactly. You know, you're right, Keith. And the beauty of it is there's so many of us now who are kind of embracing. You just forget the personalities behind it and things like that. It's not about that. It's about producing good products that's safe, responsible, and catch more fish. And I don't think that's a bad thing to actually go for. So don't think the method. I've had people say to me, incredibly, I find, but then again, I suppose with the industry pushing like it does, you know, people are going to be influenced. But, I've tried the method before, it doesn't catch. And you go, well, the method is just a system. It's like saying, I run, but I can't move. Well, you can if you run properly, if that makes sense. Probably be your own person. Exactly, Ian. Blaze your own trail, but always use good products. So when you say, you know, I've used the method, doesn't work, and you go, yeah, but the method is just a tactic. It's just a generic word for something that, you know, describes a tactical approach. The key is what the method is made of. So when people say it don't work, well, perhaps it's the fact that the stuff you're wrapping it in doesn't work. And when you see some of the stuff out there full of breadcrumb and things like that, it can't be. You know, this is my loss leader. I'm not going to use something substandard. I'm certainly not going to sell something that's substandard. So what we're going to do now is just show you this in how I work it. So let's go back round. Getting used to it now again. So first thing is to get some of your method mix and just pat it out. Okay. Now this is a big part of the job. You need to get this right. Now I'm not going to really ram this on, so it's really kind of pushed on because I want you to see the effect. But everything has to be the same. So you put it in and then you lay the rig across the top. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to put some more on top of it. Now what they do a lot of times with all these kind of feeders, they have lead at the bottom and said, oh, when you cast it out it's going to fall on that. Well, I don't. So what I'm going to do, and to create that slack I mentioned earlier, I'm just going to fold that back in. Okay, and get it all covered. And the only thing that will be different than the match angler, obviously the ingredients are very bespoke. Yeah, exactly, Andrew, and sea fishing, it's all been. But so that, and I will put a bit of PVA, tiny bit of PVA. No, well, it's not PVA, it's maize starch. You know, the little but I can really compress that into a shape, and I can really chuck that. Okay, and so what will happen there, so I've just got a couple of multi-worm, as I said, on there, just the size 8 wide gate grips there. So I know this is not, yeah, I'll probably miss Neil, no, my luck. So we know that every time that I'll tell you what I'm going to do, is I'm going to do this 100% properly. I'm going to, so you all know the old, it's maize starch, totally fish friendly, water friendly, totally natural. It's actually a packing foam. That's where it comes from. And again, I do all of this very, it's not just the OCD in me. So all I'm doing, I don't use it like a lot of people. I just cut. I can get about 4 pieces out of one of these. So I just cut a sliver. Okay, then I'm just going to wet the back, and what I'll do is I have to pull this all out a second, so hopefully you can see this. So what I'm going to do, and I do this every cast, I'd never ever change my approach. So I'm just folding, if you can see there, I'm trapping the head, okay, and I'm folding to cover the gape. Now I do this whether it's this rig or any other rig. If it's my LQ rig, I still do the same thing. Cut off a little bit of excess there. Now that can't tangle, and the reason it can't tangle is because nothing can get in the gape. And so when you're fishing the system like I am, I don't want anything to ever tangle. I've done this for so long, and I've seen people that, you know, they reel in after 24 hours and everything's just a complete mess. And you know, so any way you can cast it out with confidence, yeah. So I'm just going to place this in because it's going to be, yeah, I'm not going to cast from distance. So that will basically fall like that. And that's how we do it. So every time it's totally consistent. And so what will happen is, whereas the match angler tends to actually fold the bait back into the hook bait or the hair bait back into the mix, I don't. I want it basically expanded like this. And so it's sat out, and what you'll see obviously is the breakdown. So I can manipulate that breakdown by using dried naturals, which is what I'm using the Gamma shrimp for. So that will just literally pull apart that mix. And so you see all of these particles, this is what I'm using to basically attract the carp or the tench. It's caught so many tench on this bream, to be fair, because it's fish food, you know, fish for other species, it's fantastic. So you see the old nugget is slowly, where are we? It's slowly starting to dissolve. And so all of this pile will, and this is why I started fishing with stones, to be quite honest, because back in the day, there was a company that got these feeders, and then other companies copied it, and they were huge. They look like little starship spaceships, don't they? You know, Star Wars spaceships, and you'll see them. Yeah, I'm getting a bit tempted there, Neil, to be fair. It's looking good. But the nice thing is, as soon as it breaks down, your bait is just sat next to a rock where you know, it's part of, people say to me, oh, in clay lakes there's no stones, and it's like, there is. You know, when people make all these mad statements, and there is, simply because if you didn't have rocks within the structure of a lake, it doesn't hold water. So it's part of the building blocks. So what you've got, and like I say, you can add live maggots to that, you can do whatever you want, and you'll end up, every time you cast out, that's basically what you'll do. And I call it the weed rig is because that's when I go to a place like Horseshoe or Gold Lake, things like that, that I just cast into the weed. I never fish in thick weed because that's obviously stupid, that's dangerous. But what I will do is, you know, medium, light to medium weed, because I tend to fish in that, because I don't tend to fish in clear spots, because there's nothing on a clear spot, and there's a reason for nothing being on a clear spot. And what people do, they'll fish a clear spot, and because they're putting their bait on it, it'll draw the fish in. But the fish aren't naturally going to feed on something that doesn't hold any food. So I just cast that into the weed, and though we've dived on it, done through it, it looks horrible, but it's in the weed, and the fish are swimming through the weed, and they just come to this trap full of food that hasn't tangled. Of course, it doesn't present as people would want it to present all along the bottom and lovely chubbly. Well, that doesn't happen anyhow in most situations, because the bottom is never ever flat as a pancake kind of thing. It's always got dips and grooves and things like that. And so basically, as you can see there, I've got a whole pile of food. I can cast that, like I say, catching today, that's not going into weeds. So I know I call it my weed rig. That's just my name, because I use it in places like horseshoes to such great effect. But the key is the ingredients, folks. I bang on about it. And like I say, when people go in, they'll buy something, let's just say, for £5. I'm not saying it's all junk out there, far from it. There's some very good bait companies out there, but what you've got to be aware of, there's also some very, very poor ones. And yes, they can make something called a method mix, but it's like pellet. You can make a pellet, but pellet is just the name. It's like pie. There's lots of different forms of pie, isn't there? And so what you've got is all that lifting out there. You've got all of the signals that we put in, the maggot, the daphnia, and then basically, yes, we've got our food lures there. But at the end of the day, fish aren't going to eat that. They're going to inhale that. This will feed all and everything. And that's why I love it going to my lakes as well from a fishery point of view, because that will feed everything. And I don't know how well that is coming out, but let me see, can I do anything like that? Oh. There you go. And that, and honestly, folks, I tend to fish these mixes, whether I'm on the river, I mean, you know, if I was doing back in the old days, doing flounder fishing like I used to, I'd be using it for flounder fishing as well. Because if you know, I didn't know back in those days that you could create what we've created here. So you're really, really focused on the ingredients, really, really focused on how you're putting it together every time. So every time I cast out, there's that consistency. The only thing that is flexible with me, okay, is like a fly angler, like a match angler, like a lure angler. I don't change rigs. Those rigs are, you know why? They work. You know, they're not going to catch an extra fish. What you do in all other areas of fishing, as I keep on going on about, and why carp fishing is different, and an element of the carp search is saying, well, what we're doing is right. Well, it doesn't match anything that anybody else is doing. So, you know, you sit there and think, well, in all other areas of fishing I've personally done, and I've had boats both here and abroad, fly fished all over, badly match fished and things like that. It's always about changing, yes, depths and levels and, you know, and things like that. But the main thing is you change your bait. If you're not getting on the day bites. Wayne, I've learned something there. I didn't use anymore because it wasn't dissolving quickly enough. Nice little slither of nuggets is back of my fishing. Yeah, Wayne, that's true. You see, I've seen people and they put a whole nugget on, and basically that can take ages and ages to break down, especially in the winter. It's water temperature like everything, I suppose. So yeah, just to clarify, I'm literally, let me just go back round. And so it's literally a slither, and because all I'm using it for, because obviously in the old days it was all about popping up and doing this and that and the other, and unfortunately a lot of it was based on assumption. But what I do know is I've never tangled ever since I've been using that. And you literally, yes, you're spending a bit of time to create that, yeah. And then let me just grab this one out of the tank. And so now it's a thin slither. Even in the winter, that will break down. And basically, because it's so thin, I can do what we're doing here. So let me just take this one. So if you have that, and as you saw that can do that, yeah? So your hair, I would say, should never be longer than either your eye or if you've got a kick of that, because that can actually create a tangle. But the problem is, especially when you're using a braid, this will fly all over the place. Now, using Steam Link, it's pretty damn good as well. But is it worth the risk of poking it out there and missing that fish of a lifetime purely because I haven't done this? And all I'm saying, I'm trapping the hair, and then closing the gape. It is that simple. And I know that I can chuck that to the horizon, and well, I can't get it to tangle because I've tried to get it to tangle, because that's how I tick. It's got to be right every time. And so every time I'm throwing that out, I know the result will be the same thing, because it's, you know, I'm just replicating replication, and it's things like that. So just another little tip, folks, that if you never want to tangle, just like I say, so I've got this all a bit, everything's getting a bit mucky here. That can't tangle. And for the reasons, the tip and the gate are completely and utterly covered. When it goes through the air. Another anti-tangle hot tip is, you probably know that I like using pastes a lot, conking off my pastes. And so if you get a paste around, you can still use the starch, maize starch there. But so if you go back to that, yeah, what I will do is I'll get some paste and I'll wrap it round there, because it's going to give me more attractant, especially if I throw a load of Daphnia powders and things like that into it. And because that will then, I can travel the paste up that hair, then it's just too big to go through there. And what happens when you're casting out, the weight of the paste will actually fall out and push away from your stones as well. So very, very anti-tangle. And obviously when you've got a rig like that, using the braid rig, I really wouldn't suggest to use that other than, and what we're going to do now, and I think this is really good, because I know, what's Lee, I know some of them are a bit iffy and break down really. So yeah, we've noticed that. That's a good point, Lee. I know we buy the best we can possibly get. We have to believe, obviously, the manufacturers and established manufacturer is the real deal. But there is some stuff out there that I've seen. I've seen some stuff here, including PVA netting. I was really shocked last year. Somebody came up with PVA netting. I was standing there with him, he reeled in, and his net hadn't broken down. So God knows what that was made of. Unbelievable. So yeah, just always be careful. Make sure it is one that will break down. And I can promise it. Don't use ruggers too old, as they've been subject to moisture. They tend not to dissolve. Yeah, that's one of the things you need to make sure. I mean, if any team members that are here at the moment, you get these free. So, right, before, I'm just going to go back and say, don't forget, we've got the glug, hook, and other boosters and things like that raffle running at the moment. If you want to enter it, just send yes to the Pallatrax main Facebook page. Right, so what I'm going to do now, folks, is just go back to my little demo, and I apologise because I've shown it to a few, but there will be people here that have. Oh, hang on a second, what's gone on there? Oh, and basically that's what I'm looking at. Now, if you agree with me that is a stone, because it is just a stone dug out from the UK ground, okay, and that could be that. Your bait could be sat on a great big rock or whatever. So it's a real edge, not having a great big lump of feeder or a great big lump of lead sat right next to that. And that's really what started off, because I was fishing, my catch rate using the man-made was going down and down and down, replacing it, common sense with natural, using really, really good food. And I'm just going to get a little stirrer, and you can see when you agitate it what happens as well. So that will be the final thing on there. Hang on a second. Can also wrap Metamix around the hook, and yes, you can, exactly. That's the ones, Lee. I've seen a few of those. No, you're totally right, Trevor. Using these mixes gives you tactical advantage that you won't get without using them. And then if you can use, obviously, something which is really, really good grubbins, so let's just come back a little bit. So I know this is all tanked, testy stuff. It's not the right bottom and one thing or another. We will be doing some of this stuff up close and personal. But just imagine this is fish coming into the area, and this is what you'll get when they start moving around and your hook bait's floating around. All these bits of food are zipping off all and everywhere, and it's no surprise it's catching a lot of fish. And because loads of people don't use it, or if they do use it, they're not using something of the quality of that, you won't get the same effect. It's just literally that. So using the best, and you can just see it in a dim distance, that is all food now. And that's all eatable and edible for fish, because that's what it's been designed to do. A bit like I've said, recently, and I've been the haters came out on Facebook when I came out and said, well, why are we using dog biscuits and not proper floaters that are made for fish? And everybody came out, oh, not everybody, but you know, the idiot factor. And it's like, well, I'm not stating anything other than common sense. Do I want floaters that are made of dog biscuit food going into an aquatic situation with very, it's the expense the side of it doesn't mean that much to me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not rich, far from it. Never will be the way I run my business. But the fact is, fish are expensive, but in themselves, every fish is an individual and they're irreplaceable. And I want to make sure they're fed on the best. So if it's going to go in there, I don't want it to be negative to them, the water quality, or the general biomass. And the fact is that, you know, if you're going to use something that is for another species completely, it's not going to be the thing to do. Any fish farmer will tell you that. And, you know, so when people kind of try and shoot me down and say, oh, you're just doing that because you want to sell stuff. No, I'm not. If you owned a fishery and had a fish kill, which is what I did, that would really change your mind. But if you had a fishery anyhow and were savvy, knowing that water quality is the number one jobber, then you know, it's the priority. If you look after your water quality, it's like, you know, we had 2 fish today down there, and they weren't. I mean, I was on the new Pallatrax rods and very 2.5 pound test curve, very through action, and these fish are so strong. And I honestly think, I can't say for a fact, but it's common sense would make. The fact is that we're feeding them properly, we're looking after water quality, all the kind of things that are going on. Therefore, surely, if we look after them, they're going to fight better, and that's what we're seeing. I mean, Mark had an upper double yesterday off the surface, and it on £1.75 rod, 12-pound gamma, and there was no bringing that fish in. He had to play that fish out, and as he said afterwards, he said that's the most exciting fight I've had, because it wasn't like fishing a 3-pound test curve rod when you don't really think it's going to drop off as long as you keep a good curve and things like that. But so food for thought, literally food for thought. So right, I'm now going to the live feed raffle, and so the prize, I said I was going to include one of the LQ rigs, strawberry glad, liquids, which again you can use lots of different ways. All these things you can use, is, you know, so like somebody said, they do your own thing. If you've got any questions, anybody, do just fire out. So some grips and some of the old water-based, and it has to be water-based. If you're wanting to bring the flavour to ingress into something, don't use an oil base, because the oil will just do what it does. It will just coat. And actually, if you think about it, oil actually displaces water. So it's not the best thing to do. Don't get me wrong, there's lots of different oil-based things and different carriers. But if you use a water-based, it's not because you're being cheap or anything like that. It's the fact is because you're using something that will actually go into a bait or something like that, whatever, a pellet. And the winner is, hopefully that comes out, Josh Goody. So Josh, if you're still here, well done, my friend. You have won that bundle of joy. And so we will get that off to you. If we don't, if you get this right, just send me, Simon Pomeroy, a messenger with your details, Josh, and I will get that in the post to you tomorrow. If not, I will make sure to send you a message. So yeah, there you go, and a rig that I caught a fish on this morning. So you can't really go wrong on that. And it's still sharp as it should be. When people say to me, one hook, one fish, I'm just thinking, no, who came up with that idea other than somebody in the trade wanting to sell us more hooks? Right, I've got a couple of questions. Have we still got time? I hope I'm not boring. There's still a few people here. Richard Ward, quick talk about Sue's homemade slightly boiled and flavoured hook baits would be good. Well, I've always said, if you want the freshest baits, and Sue's obviously got heavily involved in Pallatrax in so many ways, and you know, I've been talking to her time on the bank and one thing or another, and saying, look, if you want the best hook baits, use the best ingredients and make it yourself, because then you can skin it off to wherever you want. A lot of commercial baits, obviously, somewhat won't even break down because of their ingredients. But the longer you boil a bait, the harder the membrane comes, so everything that's trapped inside almost like an egg. So when you're making it yourself, it's just great fun, because you're now, you're now going out and challenging yourself, I suppose, because it's really nice to catch on something that you've made. You can create an edge. I've had to be in and out, but here, well, hopefully it's all good, Lee. 1 second, I need a little Sunday cider. And black. It's because I like sweets. So yeah, making your own bait is great to do, but it all comes down. Lee, ironically, he will back me up here. Look, there's Dave doing his baits. Like I say, make sure you're using ingredients, and if you don't know, just I'm Pom's Padawan. What's a Padawan learner? You technical word there, Sue. You know me. Like I say, it gives you so many different options. It expands your knowledge. You start looking at things, what's good for fish, what isn't good for fish, what's going to record impact on the day, and all those kind of things. So it just does open up another arena. Oh, Star Wars. No, don't watch Star Wars. Sorry. I believe in aliens, but that's about as far as it goes. But so it's just a great thing, and you can always phone me. I'm always happy. Jedi learning from the master. So yeah, I love helping people, because that's how I started, with people who use the Force. Yeah, young Jedi, I don't think so. Me and Monksy were looking like an old couple of fogies today, weighing down on the bank. It was great to see Monksy, really good. It's been a long time. So it's just a great thing to do if you want to go down that route, and therefore you qualify what you're using, because it's what's on the hair and what's your freebies are is ultimately the difference between catching lots, catching some, and catching none. So when you make it yourself, I mean, I think the good thing about Pallatrax is, or one of the many good things, and again, not blowing our own trumpet, I just make bait for myself, and what's left over, people, if they want to trial it or use it or whatever, it's there. I don't do any of this hard selling. Mr. Brotherwood, see you soon as well. Him and Baldy Dave, all these people coming down to the new lakes, which is all good stuff. I've seen Sorry this year, actually, over at the Quay. So any questions about bait, Richard? I could sit here for hours. Well, I can't stop talking, but it's good fun. It opens up different areas. You then start looking at bait totally differently than going in just in buying it off a shop and thinking, well, that'll do. When a lot of times it's not where I on the bank as I type. Good man. This is an interesting one. I get asked this a lot as well. This is by Paul Henshaw. Tackling waters where crays are a pain. They are, and obviously we've got the signal crayfish now, unfortunately, taking over from the white claw, the natural, and things that can causing lots of different problems. But they also are actually very, very edible, not just to humans, but to everything in nature. So there's a lot of fish on barbel waters and carp waters that are putting on really high levels of weight, and it's down to crayfish, but we're talking predominantly the baby crayfish, the eggs and things like that. But how do you tackle them? Well, the only way I've ever come up with, because I'm never ever going to put a lump of plastic around it. I'd rather exactly. Interesting, actually, on the cray subject, you are not allowed to make a bait out of any form of crayfish. Just to be warned on the making your own bait. There is legislation. It's all to do with the spreading of a disease that the signal crayfish have, and that's why the white claw gets decimated. It's this horrible disease that basically eats from the inside out. It's like a fungus, And so don't ever make your bait out of any form of crayfish, whether it's powder, whether it's the real deal, because it's not allowed. It's legislation out there specifically. And I know that because I tried to make I'd made some a long time ago, and then just happened to come across some legislation. I was looking at something else and I never ever realised. So just be aware of that. So I suppose ironically, because we're talking about it, what we tend to do, and you'll see at Liquid, we'll get the glug, whatever flavour. No worries, Kim, we're still here. I'm still here rabbiting away. Hope you're well. What we do is we get the glugs, because there's a sugar content in the glug, all right? And you have to, like I said earlier, so you get one of my HMV baits, you have to drill holes in them, and that's where you're going to put your hair, okay? And what will happen if you leave them in there for a couple of weeks, you can leave them in there literally in this stuff for years. Okay, it's not synthetic preservatives or anything. It's natural sugars that are doing the job. So obviously that's a flavour enhancer. There's lots of different things and reasons why to use sugars at certain levels and one thing and another. But what it does do, it basically makes the baits, they've got to be HMV baits, so they've got to be, water, so they can ingress. Shelf life baits and things like that won't do it. But all I can say is I know for a fact with my bait ranges, you pop them in there, so you can put 15, 20 hook baits in there with holes through them, whether they're squabs or round shapes or whatever, and within 2 weeks they will literally go like bullets. And that's the only way we can get around crays. And that was just a mistake, by default again. It wasn't designed. I didn't think, I need something to do that. It's just that when we started, mucking around with it years ago at Paddington and all that kind of stuff, so we're talking, 20 years ago, it was one of those things that, what happened basically, I bunged a load of, back in them days, it would be poms, and left them there, and after a couple of weeks went to get one out, tried to put bait needles through, and it was like solid. And the only way I had to drill them out, but obviously because it's really sticky and one thing or another, if you drill them out before, just with a 1 mil thing, so that will harden them off and that will stop. But you've still got to be very aware to fish. The best way to fish it is to actually push if you can, and you can use the little file and things like that, is to make sure you push your boilie stop in there, because they will. And the rest, Ian, matey. What do you feed your lakes with, Pom? Multiworm and pellets? Basically, on the pellet front, again, it's all about using the right stuff. So everything I've made was off the back of that fish kill. Okay, as in with the bait products. So I'm looking at real food that will basically enhance the biomass, look after the water quality and feed the fish. And basically any of my bait that goes in there, Lee, is obviously is designed to be a biomass food source, especially for the fish. And then I'm using Pallatrax, and there's a lot of us in the trade now are using Pallatrax. There's various different bait feed companies, pellet companies like Coppins and Skrettings and Dana, and there's Pallatrax, and Pallatrax are quite new to the UK, but it's got really fantastic ingredients, and got really good rates of return. So when there's not any anglers here, I will literally feed that and give them it. Exactly, and there's no arrogance in that statement. It's literally, if you feed something properly, whether it's a human, whether it's a dog, whether it's a bird, whether it's a fish, if you feed them, they'll become healthy, stronger, better looking in many ways, like birds with their plumages and all the different things that go on. And it is just all about the ingredients. And I know me and you, Lee, we sing very much off the same hymn sheet, and it's almost like it's such an important area, and I've always found it very difficult to understand why a lot of anglers don't really focus on it, because even the worst bait in the world will catch fish. You are what you eat. Yeah, look, I look like a Mars bar, don't I, Richard? That's the trouble. I eat loads of junk, and if I didn't eat junk and ate healthy, you get those results. Exactly, you're totally correct there, Richard. So so lots of things. Just got what else would have? So team members, the weed rig is is either on there or just about to go on there. The multi-worm pop-ups are now on the site. Where was it? There's a couple of things. Right, oh, and just to let you know, if you don't know, most of you will, that these are all on the site now, which is the iBites, which is the illuminated different systems tips and free-lining lights and things like that, which I've sourced, which I think are just phenomenal. Lots of team members are using them. They're called iBites. Let me just try and I'll show you one. I can get it out. So if you haven't seen these before, these are I use these for float ledger. Love float ledger fishing. Really sensitive. Really shows that your alarms aren't exactly the best beasts in the world. You can chuck these out miles in there. So you take it apart. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Let me try and switch these off. Can you see that? So the whole stem lights up, so you can fish that. You can fish that on your normal system. Hang on a second, if I turn this light off. There you go, that's better. And so, yeah, if you're into float ledger, if you're into night fishing where you can sit there and watch a float, you can fish it normally when you're normally fishing on your normal, whether it's a tench or bream or whatever. It's just really, really good quality. And then you just take the battery out, and there's various different options. Those are now on the site. It's taken us a little while because we've been so busy. I do apologise, but there's lots of different options there, and we are doing more and more filming going forward, where we will really, really show you. Cool, blimey. Really show you how to get the best out of these, and it really comes to space. Yeah, it is Star Wars, isn't it? But they really, I know Keith, you're fishing on them, things like that. It's just great fun because it takes you back to when we were kids, when it was all about float fishing. But the one thing I will finish off with, it will show you why I call the alarm the electronic liar, because the amount of times you will see that disappear at night, and not a single indicator on your alarm. And that's really shows you. And the further it out, the worse it becomes. Always just remember your alarm is actually an indicator. It's not fact. So anyway, folks, that's me for another week. I'll be back on the team page next week. Watch out, lots of new things happening. As always feel free to pick up the phone if you want to speak to me or message me about anything and everything. And if you're not team members of Pallatrax, do look at. Thank you, Robert. Thanks, folks. As long as you, ladies and gentlemen, are happy, I will be here. Yes, looking forward to that. Looking forward to that, mate. Loads of things happening. It's getting really exciting. More and more people are just going, okay, well, if the bloke actually isn't lying or isn't fudging the truth, perhaps there is something. And since we, the last couple of years, obviously a lot of people have been very, very supportive, and I'll never be able to thank them enough. But it's getting out now. It's getting out all over the place, whether it's America or whether stuff going to places like Guam, crazy Australia, whatever. Because perhaps I'm not lying, perhaps I don't have a hidden agenda, and perhaps I'm just telling it as I see it and drawing you to those conclusions, and then you make up your own choice from them. But I can promise you, I have no hidden agenda. I love helping people in angling, because the likes of Terry Walton, John Harris, these are people when I was a kid, they all helped us. And if we can't help people, how are we going to see our industry flourish? And if we don't use the right products, how are we going to see our watercourses flourish? So I've got no agenda. Perhaps others have. There you go, have a think of that one. But on that, I'm going to sign off and go and chill out for the rest of the evening. And we've got a mad week. So Tony Marsbrook, yes, you do the Pete. You'll see lots and lots of mentions of Pallatrax in there. That's for the last 15 years of his life, he only fished on Pallatrax baits, and not a lot of people know that, but it is in his books. Have a great week, folks, and I'll be back next week on the team page. But as I say, any questions, just let me know. Thanks for your time. Thanks for keeping me company. And as long as you're happy, I'm happy, and I'll be here every week. Next week, we will definitely have a guest on here. That's been my challenge. So, yeah, we're going to have a few guests, make it more interesting. You know, you've seen enough of me rabbiting away. But anyway, lots of things that'll be happening, lots of announcements. We've been, you know, this week enjoying the wine. No, this is cider. Yeah, some new developments coming out. I've been playing with things, and that I've been doing for years. But now, as we get bigger, I can reinvest more and more stuff into the company and do more stuff. So I'll be your guest one day, Kim. One day we're going to have team members on here, so I'll hold you to that. Good night, folks. Stay safe and all the best.